I decided to treat my wife to a vacation for her birthday. We don't have kids, have a moderately stable income, and love to travel. She told me to surprise her. She only had one requirement: a hot tub. Well, finding a place within 2 weeks on Airbnb with a hot tub seemed to prove its own challenge. I checked Charleston, Myrtle Beach and Virginia. Then I thought to myself, Tennessee, the Great Mountains. All those cabins always have a hot tub, so I went ahead and did a search on Airbnb and found a place with damn near perfect reviews. A few 4 stars here or there, but no complaints. I booked it while at work and kept it a secret until we drove there. We arrived and passed through a beautiful gate. We drove up a driveway that was 2 miles long. It took us roughly 15 minutes to do that because of all the blind curves. When we punched in the code and walked in, we fell in love. The place was absolutely gorgeous. I plopped down onto the couch and took off my shoes while she went to use the restroom before we dipped into the hot tub. I reached for the TV remote and noticed a paper underneath it. I figured it was a tub guide or something, but it wasn't. Greetings, guests. We hope you enjoy your stay in this cabin. For the best possible experience, please follow these rules closely. We ask you this to ensure your safety and survival. Please step inside before midnight. Under no circumstances do you walk outside. Be sure all doors are locked. If the man in the hood approaches, speak to him only if he speaks to you first. Don't leave food outside. Cabins normally say this because bears, but you don't want to feed them. Before you leave in the morning, please leave us a positive review. Doing this will give you the code to leave the gate in the morning. I didn't tell my wife because, well, she's a scaredy cat. And I didn't want to upset her, and I kind of figured it was some sort of joke a housekeeper left. Still, I'm a pretty paranoid person. We hopped in the hot tub and had a couple of beers, and I must say, it felt amazing. Being butt naked in warm water staring out at the moon and stars over the mountain made me feel serenity. But I noticed it was 10 till midnight. Not trying to scare my wife, I asked her if we could go inside and make some cookies before putting on a movie. As we walked in, I locked the back door and casually checked the front. We baked the chocolate chip cookies and put on some kung fu movie before she fell asleep on me. I was on the border of slipping into sleep myself when I heard. I walked up to the door and peered out the side window.
Mr. Boyles, I know you're in there. Please, let's have a chat. Aren't you going to answer, Mr. Boyles? I can smell you through the door, and I can see your shadow casting through the window.
I finally made sense of what the knocking was, and it was a very pale man in a dark robe. I couldn't see his eyes, but I could see his cracked old mouth. What do you want from me?
Mr. Boyles, how very smart of you to answer back. I'm not really the man for small talk, so let me cut straight to the point. I'm very hungry, and so are my children. May we come in?
No, sir, you cannot.
What a shame. How about you search in the freezer and give me some of that hamburger meat the owner's left?
Okay, 1 second. You'll leave me alone after this, yeah? I asked.
You have my word. You can even slide the tray through the mouse slot.
I walked up to the fridge and opened the freezer door. A note was in there with no meat. If you want to keep your hand, do not slide in any food. Oh no. I walked back and told him I had nothing for him.
Mr. Boyles.
The hooded man walked away and my wife woke up and asked why I was so pale. Before I could think of a lie, the chanting started. I peered out of the window and saw what seemed to be 8 smaller hooded men. They were circling our cabin and chanting. I couldn't quite make out what they were saying because I was shaking so hard.
Mr. Boyles, I'm back and I brought company. Kindly open the door so this can all end.
All of them started pounding on the windows and doors. My wife was crying hysterically. My senses overloaded. I grabbed the handgun I laid on the nightstand and put it against my head. I just wanted it to stop. All the noise. I was hypnotised. Right before I pulled the trigger, all the little men did this high-pitched scream. I fired the round after my hand jerked and it went through the TV and stopped by the chimney. My wife had tackled me and covered my ears. She knew how bad noises bothered me and wrapped a blanket around us both. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember the sun being up and I saw where muddy footprints were stomped all over the car. I wrote a positive review and received the code to leave. So if anyone is planning to go to the Great Mountains, be wary of the hooded man. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe he was trying to be nice, but every red flag was raised and every alarm inside me was going crazy. This happened a few hours ago and I'm safe now. I don't think I have anything to worry about anymore. I'm going to another country to see a band I love. I found a cheap Airbnb online and booked it. I was supposed to come in late last night, but the flight was delayed, train missed, a nightmare trip overall. I was supposed to get to his place after midnight, and he told me that was completely fine. I checked the reviews about him, and all that was said is that he was a lovely host, a really nice man. But I did notice that all these reviews had been written within a month. Red flag number 1. Then I missed the final train and was unable to get to the place, so I told him I couldn't make it, but we'll be there tomorrow. And he said it was okay. I got to the train station of the city I'm in and decided to walk because I hadn't had that much cash with me. I walked for about 40 minutes and got to a place that could be called run down at best. I see drug dealers everywhere. You can just tell sometimes. The door, which had the right number on it, was just a white door next to a shop. Red flag number 2, 3 and 4. I'd never been able to get hold of him. I had his number, but it always went to an answering machine and he didn't answer my texts. I walk into a shop and ask if someone lives there, and the guy in his shop was shady, and he said, "A few. Who are you looking for?" I tell him my host's name, and he was playing with his phone in a way I couldn't see anything of what he was doing, but then there was a bing. I get a message from my host. He's almost there. I leave the shop and realise that was red flag number 5. Half an hour later, a guy comes in the car with his girl in the front seat and says, "I'm your host. It's the wrong address on the site. Hop in the back and I'll take you there." Red flag number 6. I said, "You know what, thank you, but I'll find somewhere else." And I walked away. Now, that doesn't really seem like a horror story, does it? However, in the coming weeks, I saw something pop up on social media. It was an Instagram post about someone else's horror story, which linked to another horror story, all describing the same Airbnb, pretty much the same details, some varying in slight different ways. In the comments, someone had posted that their daughter had stayed at this man's Airbnb. The daughter had messaged the mother at 5 minutes to 7. She arrived at the Airbnb just shy of 7 o'clock, and those were her last known whereabouts. This happened a few months ago. If I remember correctly, in January or February 2024, I was visiting family in southern France and did not want to stay at their place even if they offered, for personal reasons which I won't share here. Note that I visit them quite often and usually last minute, so I'd never book the same place and sometimes book a hotel which was more expensive but better for me because I don't necessarily want to socialise with the hosts. Even when I would book Airbnbs, I would always search flats or studio flats and not a room in a flat or a house where other people live, as I want to be on my own, so this is important criteria for me. So I booked this Airbnb within walking distance to where my family members stay, and it looks very nice on paper. I think it was marketed as a house or a ground floor flat with access to a yard and a garden. It was probably one of the cheaper options. There were not a lot of reviews, but the few ones that were there were pretty positive. So I go to that place with my suitcase, waiting in front of the house. I contact the landlord who should give me the keys, but he's late. I spent at least 1 hour waiting outside, and I'm trying to be patient, realising at least the neighbourhood is pretty nice and seems safe, even if I did have to walk through areas that were slightly dodgy to get there. The landlord finally arrives. He seems like a good man and apologises profusely, saying that he was in another town visiting his cousin or friends, and time flew by. First red flag, he says they were drinking and didn't have time to sober up, so he had to speed on the highway on his motorbike while being drunk. He stops and asks me half jokingly not to say that in my review. I get a bit serious and tell him he shouldn't drink and drive, but he says he didn't really want to make me wait any longer. I tell him I won't flag that in my review, although I probably will, but I don't want to get off on the wrong foot. This guy is nice otherwise and seems trustworthy, very chatty and open to socialising, and frankly I was just happy I could finally get in and drop off my stuff. Second red flag is when he tells me I'll be living in a small flat adjacent to the bigger house where he lives. But I shouldn't worry because I have my own place, my own bathroom, my own kitchen, etc, etc. I don't like that too much, but I actually think it might be good because I'm not super comfortable being on my own in a ground floor accommodation, knowing anyone can get into the yard and access the front door. So knowing that someone that I know is close by in case something happens gives me a sense of safety. He shows me around. All seems okay. It's pretty old, but as I said, I wasn't looking for a luxury stay. The part where I would stay is on a lower level than street level. Not exactly like a basement because there is access to a garden, but I need to walk down a set of stairs outside and get into the flat through the backyard. This shows mostly when I'm in the bedroom, as I see through the windows that it's clearly at a lower level. Next red, or rather yellow flag, is when he shows me a door close to his bedroom, which is the connecting door between my part and his part of the house. I was kind of expecting that, but thought he might need to at least cross the yard or access through the front door to get to my part of the house. He says this door stays closed and is locked anyway, not as a warning for me to try and open it, but more like you'll notice there is this door. It's useless for you and what's beyond it is not what you're renting. We chat a little bit and he gives me his phone number because Airbnb chat feature is not too good. It's easier to use WhatsApp. And then he leaves. I start to settle down, open my suitcase and get changed before leaving to visit my family. I then went back to the place in the evening and decided to have a shower. If I remember correctly, what I'm saying next happened before I took a shower because I remember locking the bathroom door, which I never do when I'm on my own, and I recall being quite anxious when taking a shower. It's the biggest red flag before the last drop. I'm sitting on the bed and hear a knock and someone saying my name. 2 seconds later, before I get the chance to answer or even understand where the noise was coming from, I hear keys turning in the lock and the door opening. As you might have guessed, it's the connecting door next to the bedroom. The guy enters, says he can't find his phone and he might have left it downstairs. I'm a bit shocked, probably because if it had come 10 minutes later, I would have been naked, ready to take a shower, or maybe walking around in a towel, since I'm supposedly alone. I know it might sound like I'm a pussy, but keep in mind I'm a relatively young woman, alone in a house with a man in his 40s or 50s, who has control over when he can get into my place at any time. I stay polite and try and tell him that no, I haven't seen his phone. He still comes in, speaking a lot and very fast while I'm sitting there, not fully realising what's happening and not having a chance to tell him to leave. He looks around the flat and obviously doesn't find the phone. Then he says he's sorry and asks if everything is fine, if I had dinner or something like that, and then he leaves again. At this point, I'm wondering if I should just stay or not, since I know you get refunded only if you cancel 2 nights in advance. I just thought I would lose the money for the night that has started, and the following one maybe, knowing if I'd booked at least 4 nights. I really needed to take a shower, but questioning if I should. I tried to see if there are available hotel rooms, but it's already too late to book, or already fully booked. I decided to take my shower real quick, wondering if he could hear the water, and decide that he forgot something else as an excuse to get in again. Nothing bad happens. I then go back to the bedroom, get dressed as fast as I can, and just sit down and think. I decide that I'll stay for just 1 night, and probably be less paranoid in the morning if I'm still alive. That's when I notice the chairs in the bedroom. There are 2, and one of them has ropes tied around the armrests. The chairs are in good shape, and the rope is definitely not there to keep the armrest fixed to the chair. To this day, I have no idea why they were there. I still think I should sleep there just for a night, and try to use the chair to block the door handle in the bedroom, like in the movies. But guys, this only works in the movies. I try with both chairs, trying to pile them up, even trying to use the ropes one way or another. The handle can still go down enough to open the door easily. I think that at least if I leave them in the front door, I'll hear if someone tries to open it. But the door opens the other way, and in any case, I don't know what I'll do even if the noise did wake me up. Again, I know I'm paranoid and anxious, but living alone, abroad, my motto is to never ever take risks for my own safety, as I'm usually the only one who can save myself. So it's better to avoid any tricky situation. However, this was definitely a tricky situation. I was seconds away from falling asleep. Maybe I'd already been asleep, I don't know. I was in that stage where you just sort of slip in and out. I looked over towards the door, just to check it for peace of mind, and I realised it was already open by a crack. My senses heightened. I tried to pick up any sort of signal, that I was not alone in the bedroom. Then it became clear to me that wasn't my breathing that I could hear.